I'd like to bring this meeting to order. And with that, I'd like Pastor Devon Veronum to please do the invocation for us. If you do it over there, sir, and Karen will help you with the button if you don't know where it is. You do know where it is. Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. We'd all stand, please.
Let us pray. Our gracious Father, as we come to you tonight, God, we thank you for this town called Southport. God, we thank you for the officials that you have put over us. God, we pray that you would bless them and their families. God, that you would guide them and lead them so that we can make disciples in this community and make your name known. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And now if we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now I'll read the ethics statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Hearing none, there are no conflicts. The first thing is public comment.
Mark Bacara.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, Aldermen. I'm here because I saw that the town hall was on the agenda, however, subsequently removed. But I figured, since I'm here and you're here, I might as well borrow a few seconds of your time. We last met on October 21st, and we were able to hear your concerns and your needs. And I wanted to take those back to my board and present those and see if it was economically and financially feasible for us to operate on that kind of schedule. And if I'm not mistaken, the schedule presented to us was Monday through Friday, Monday morning extended through Friday at 1 p.m., leaving us basically the weekend for those kinds of programs in the same room. And I'm pleased to report that we do believe it's still financially feasible on our end, and it would allow for us to continue to self-fund with the Art Center and be stable with the plans that we have. So I also, immediately after we met, reached out to your scheduler, Noah, over here late last night to schedule our follow-up meeting. I suggested the early December date, if that works for everybody. However, a caveat would be, while I appreciate this kind of forum, a less formal forum I would want, if possible. I think it would be best for both parties to explore the true breadth and depth of the work that we've done with respect to the project, the building, and demonstrate how we plan to achieve the goal, from financing it and to operating it and to working out all the details with sharing the space with the city. And I think a more workshop format where we're all at the same table and we could have representatives from each of our committees, be it fundraising, programs, governance, outreach, marketing, what have you, be able to sit down there at the table and just exchange a free flow of ideas, questions, concerns, and everything like that. I don't have all the answers. I haven't been in on all of our committee meetings, and so it would help me a great deal convey to you how much work has been done on this project if I could have all representatives there to meet either at one of our meetings, if a 3 and 3, we break it up however you want to do, but we're open to scheduling that, whatever meets your criteria. I know you have rules about how you meet and when and how many people can be in one place at one time. So we're willing to work with you on coordinating that. I just think it would be a more fruitful process to get to the bottom of everyone's questions and concerns. So I believe that's all I have for you. I just want you to consider that, and I look forward to hearing back from you about scheduling. That's my comment. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to break protocol and say that we've already put you on the agenda for December 2nd, but we'll talk offline, and, but right now it's December 2nd at the regular board meeting. Next, sir.
We have one more written comment. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, and residents, my name is Tom Lombardi, a former alderman and now a member of the Center for the Arts of Southport. I joined the Center for the Arts Board of Directors because of my appreciation of the arts and what I saw as an opportunity to restore the old City Hall back to its early days, creating another quality attraction to Southport without using any taxpayer funds. In my eyes, this was a win-win. The upstairs chamber will be available for Board of Aldermen meetings. Have this community building available for more rental income. The Center for the Arts will have this space to teach new artists, display their art, and provide quality entertainment to create funding for the continual maintenance of the building. The Center for the Arts Board consists of very qualified and determined members ready to work in partnership with the city to create yet another quality aspect for the city of Southport. I ask the Board of Aldermen and the residents of Southport to help us make this project a reality. Respectfully, Tom Lombardi.
And that's it, sir?
That's all.
Thank you. So the next is the approval of the agenda, and I believe there's going to be a couple of changes on that.
I've got a couple of motions I'd like to make. I'd like to, it sounds like we're moving the discussion regarding, item 5, the old City Hall courthouse to December 2nd. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to remove that from the agenda, given that Alderman Davis is not here.
And I would second that, but I would like to second it with a friendly amendment, if you are open to that, which would be to ask the clerk to schedule a joint sit-down meeting with the nonprofit as soon after December 2nd as scheduling will permit.
Those are, well, the person making the first amendment would have to accept that as a second amendment, or we can go and have your amendment heard and then move on to another amendment.
So we have a request from that board for December 2nd. Is that right, clerk?
Correct.
Okay.
But that's our regular meeting. That's why I made this friendly amendment. So it's close to December 2nd. I think they're just using that as a target date, not that particular meeting.
They actually sent an email to us and asked for that date.
But we can't we're not going to have a sit-down joint meeting during that December 2nd meeting. Our meetings aren't structured like that. Why can't we just plan to schedule a joint sit-down meeting as close to December 2nd, which will meet their conversation and give us the opportunity to do just exactly what we said we would do?
There is no technical reason why we can't do that. The question is Alderman Carroll amendment is to move this thing to the 2nd, and perhaps we should vote on that and then come back and say, because if I heard you correctly, you want a second meeting after that.
No, I want to sit down. Whatever meeting with them needs to be a joint sit-down meeting so we can do exactly kind of what Mark just said. So we can.
Is there anything that would prohibit us from having a joint meeting within that meeting? So if we had an agenda item on December 2nd for that item, could their board come in and have that conversation at the same time?
We can make sure that the agenda is light enough that we're not going to be having a 14-hour meeting, but because we can have one or two items on it, whatever the most urgent things are, and then the rest of that meeting could be that discussion.
Structured as a sit-down
Correct.
joint circular where we're all together at a table.
My problem is that Alderman Davis is going to be away for an unknown period of time for a family matter. And we have Thanksgiving on top of that, and I have no idea where the board members are going to be. So we're kind of running out of time. In order to get this moving along, December 2nd might be the best way to do it.
Well, I'm okay as long as we understand that we won't sit down tables together so we can have discussions back and forth.
Well, if Alderman Carroll wants to change his amendment to do that, then we'd have to vote on that issue, right? Ball's in your court, sir.
Well, I'm good with the December 2nd meeting being of that format, if that's what we want to do.
All right, so that's your motion, and is there a second to that motion? Okay, and Alderman Mosteller has made that motion. I'm sorry, my brain's a little tired today. So, is there any discussion on that? Not hearing any discussion. All in favor of that, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It'll be.
I'd like to make another motion to amend the agenda to include an item. I'm afraid I'm going to get shot. Indigo Phase 2. I'd like to have a conversation about that tonight, if we could.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye and raise your hand, please. Any opposed? Sir, would you put that motion in number 5 slot, please?
Mayor, do we need to add this to the agenda? The code enforcement, the code enforcement? Okay.
We do. And so I would entertain a motion to approve Amendment 6 of the FY 2025 budget to appropriate $73,804.37 now being held in the general fund balance to increase the donation account.
So that's for the next item that Chief Drew will present on the weather tower.
I'm sorry.
We need the other to amend the agenda.
You're talking about the amendment for the demolition.
Code enforcement.
I'm sorry. I will entertain a motion to amend the agenda to include a code enforcement update and demolition ordinances related to 711 Cottage Lane and 314 North Rhett Street to approve the remaining agenda as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye and raise your hand. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Sir, if you would make that, I think that's number 7, sir. Thank you. Have we missed anything, sir? Okay. So, we're still at the point of that we have to approve the overall agenda. Is there a second to that? There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. I'm sorry. Now there's the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I actually have some discussion for some of the items, but I'll wait for you to approve it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So, this is a custom that's going on for quite some time, in which there's items on the consent agenda that we highlight so that people fully understand we're not trying to slide something under the rug here, and because there's no real discussion on it. The first one is the consent agenda number 1, which is a motion to call a public hearing on December 12th, 2024 of the regular Board of Aldermen meeting for a zoning map amendment and a major modification to the Caves Cove plan unit development. I just want to put that on notice that that's what that agenda item is for, and we have a whole package on that thing. The second one is consent agenda number 2, which is an award for the S&R Environmental using budget amended of capital project funding of $90,000, what we're doing is we're having a contractor come in with cameras to look at our stormwater system. And if there's damage to the stormwater system from that we can show from Tropical Storm 8, then there's a very good chance that one, the $90,000 will be reimbursed to us, and two, that we can put in for remediation grants based on that damage. As an example, I'm not saying this is what happened. As an example, let's just say you go down and you look at a 24-inch pipe and it's broken in it, and you have to replace the 24-inch pipe. Well, if the code now says what you really needed was a 36-inch pipe, you can put in for the whole length of the thing that's for 36-inch pipe. Those are types of things that we're going to be looking at. There's two types of remediation under FEMA. One you're going to hear about a little later called a brick document, a brick grant. It's BRIC as opposed to a hard thing. And you can put that in at any time to address at a long term. Like we have flooding in a particular area quite often, and FEMA is tired of paying repeatedly for the same problem. So that's one set of money over here, and then there's these FEMA remediation grants that are available at times if you can show that damage from a specific event. So those are two different things, and you'll hear those words tossed about tonight. I'm trying to make it as clear as I can about where we're going. But the bottom line is, the staff has put a lot of time and energy in to try to figure out every penny we can get for grant money on every project that's coming before us, because the bottom line is we have to get things from that long piece of paper of 44 things and start closing them down. And so kudos to the staff. So those are the last one is consent number item number 3, which is $75,000. We had already approved this. So we had approved money for, and Heather, please, Heather, please correct me if I say this wrong. We approved the money for interior work on the gym area. Is that correct? Okay. And what we found out is the roof of the Indian Trail and the gym area both need to be fixed. So no sense fixing the interior if you got a leaky roof. So we're going to take, I think it's $22,000, $22,750 off the 75, fix the roofs, and use the remainder for the first intended purpose of fixing the interior. Did I get that right? Okay. So I just want to let you know it's not a sleight of hand when you see all these numbers moving back and forth. Okay. So we've done the consent agenda. Now we're up to agenda item 1, which is the EMS ambulance franchise agreement. And Chief Drew is going to talk about that.
Good evening, Mayor, board members, and citizens. Last month, Brunswick County sent us a new franchise agreement for the operation of our EMS service within the city. Southport Fire Department EMS Division falls under the county's EMS system. In this new contract, there were 3 main areas of concern that the city took issue with. Since receiving the contract, the city has had a public meeting where these issues were addressed. Also, since that meeting, the following facts have been established. Southport Fire Department EMS has responded to nearly 2,000 calls since January 2024. Of those calls, nearly 10% have been mutual aid calls to assist the county with their call volume. The city and the county have an amicable working relationship within the EMS system. A meeting was held with county and city officials to discuss the issues of the contract. All 3 of our concerns were brought to resolution, and a collective bargaining agreement has been reached. This has opened up a line of communication and collaboration within the county and the city. So before you tonight is a final draft of the ambulance franchise agreement for your approval. If approved this evening, it will then go to the County Board of Commissioners for their approval as well. Thank you for your support, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Does the board have any questions of Chief Drew?
Chief Drew, just to confirm, the furthest out that we can now go standby is, was it number 4, which is behind Generations Church,
That's correct.
and then
Base 5.
which is in BSL.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's the furthest for standby.
Chief, you got what you wanted?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other comments about that? So I will entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 City of Southport and Brunswick County Ambulance Franchise Agreement as presented. I'm entertaining that motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief. And Chief, just I know you already said it, but next week the county will be voting on the same thing, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So item number 2 is fire fees and how we get money to run the fire department. And across this whole county, it'll eventually turn out to be. So Chief Drew, you're up again.
Yes, sir. Good evening again. I have been asked to speak about fire service funding. Over the past several weeks, there has been discussion by several different entities about fire service funding in Brunswick County. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail tonight, but I will give you a short synopsis of the funding sources. When I joined the fire service in 1991, the majority of fire departments in Brunswick County were in desperate conditions, including Southport Fire Department. Fire department funding in those days were fundraising with very little commitment or revenue from government sources. Funding was a very big topic in the 1990s. The late 1990s, county commissioners decided to approach the state legislation with a fire fee funding mechanism where the fire district would be funded by a fee that was based on the square footage of your property. This funding mechanism was approved by the state, and fire departments in Brunswick County began receiving revenue from this system in 1998 and 99 fiscal budgets. Since that time, the fee has been increased 2 or 3 times, the last time being 2017. As you are aware, with inflation, supply and demand issues, the lack of volunteers, and the present economy, the fire fee system has once again become a stressed system that does not provide the need for operating expenses and capital purchases to sustain a fire service with our growing population in Brunswick County. There are several municipalities in the county that are having to subsidize their fire department fire fees with ad valorem taxes to meet budgets just to provide fire service. Therefore, the reason for the discussions about fire funding. The possibility of a fire tax was a subject that was discussed at the last Brunswick County Board of Commissioners meeting. Discussions are also being held with the municipal mayors of Brunswick County and also the Brunswick County Fire Chiefs Association. I'm not speaking about this tonight to cause panic or alarm for anyone. No decisions have been made. I do not see any resolution to this subject in the very near future. This is a very delicate discussion that many people are very passionate about, me being one of those people. I see many advantages to keeping the fire fee system and supplementing it with other revenue sources. I also see many disadvantages to a fire tax. I'm not advocating tonight or lobbying for a fire tax, by no means. The funding of fire service is going to have to be a meticulous, methodical process to include municipalities, the county officials, fire department personnel, and citizens. There will have to be many meetings, discussions, and debates involving the many players and the stakeholders to come up with a successful plan. This topic was discussed and a committee was appointed about 5 years ago in which I served on that committee in the county, and the committee ended, was disbanded, and discussions were halted. With that being said, the county is discussing fire funding. The Fire Chiefs Association has met and they have discussed fire funding. And then I understand that the mayors of Brunswick County have met and are talking about fire funding as well. I'm just speaking tonight to inform our citizens that talks are on the table, things are being started, and the citizens are an integral part of the process. We need feedback. Tonight, thank you for the opportunity to have this open discussion, and I'll entertain any questions that the board may have on this topic.
Does the board members have any discussion points they want to bring up?
No, maybe just, Chief, if you could clarify, it sounded to me like you more advocate for the fire fees, why that is?
Well, the fire fee system is based on the square footage of your house, so it does not fluctuate with the evaluation of properties. So you don't ever have to worry about your fire fee going up or down because your property values go up or down. That's one advantage that I see to a fire fee compared to a fire tax. Additionally, the way the legislation was written, the fire fee is protected to be used for emergency services purposes only. If there was a fire tax, I don't know how that would look, and that's going to have to be part of the discussion. Now, this is just my personal opinion. I don't know how the legislation would be written. Would it be a tax that would include the city and the county district that we have? Would it just be the county district and the city would opt out? I don't know. Currently, the county is bringing in about $35 to $38 million in fire fee. Just to set that with a revenue neutral tax, we would have to have a 7 cents tax in the county just to bring that amount in with no increase. That's a large chunk when you start thinking about a tax. And then next year, that tax may go up. And it would fluctuate everybody's payment. Right now, our payments are set. It is not sufficient funding, but is there some other funding resources that could be available to add to that? So these are the discussions that need to be had, need to be talked about, and we need to go from there to find out the exact parameters of the fire tax or fire fee.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mark.
And this is not anywhere, it's not even covering EMS. You're just on the fire level here.
That is correct.
Were we looking at our EMS as well? I mean,
well, this is the answer to that. The county is just looking at fire fee funding. A fire tax could include ambulance and EMS services. In the fire fee legislation that was written in 2017, it does give the right that you can use that money for rescue services. So that would have to be all up to how the legislation is written if the funding mechanism is changed.
What you're saying, Chief, is that there's got to be a lot more discussion before any type of decision is made, correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying, because I think right now in the Fire Chiefs Association, I think it's about a 50-50 split. Some want fire fees, some want fire tax. And I think we're going to have to see all the cards are going to have to be on the table before people are really going to be able to buy into what type of system that we're going to have.
In the interim, should we be asking our legislators to create more flexibility in the fire fee process? Because I know the budget this past year, the city added to the budget. So, and I think Charlotte has issues with that as well. So is that something you would ask of us to put on our legislative priorities?
I think any kind of revenue source that we could get from the legislators would be good. I don't know. I think as a whole, it would have to be a request from the county commissioners for the entire county to up the fire fee. I do know that right now municipalities are contributing through their ad valorem taxes about $9 million on top of what's already being in Brunswick County, on top of what is already being collected. Some municipalities are contributing at least $3 million on top of what their fire fee is. Southport is given last year in the budget $160,000 on top of our fire fee collection. And of course, I told the mayor we're getting a good deal compared to other municipalities, because there are other municipalities in our county that are given $3 million on top of their fire fee. So when you look at $160,000 compared to $3 million, that's a pretty good deal. But that's beside the point. But I think with the municipalities contributing $9 million, that they're starting to see that something's got to be done. We have to have an additional funding source for revenue.
Thank you.
So to add to this, as the chief stated, the 19 mayors group is already working on this issue. And then Representative Miller and Senator Rabin gets in tomorrow. They're going to have a discussion about this. Miller's had a couple of conversations with me about this already. And so he has suggested that the State Fire Marshal Department, Fire Marshal, be part of this process. The League of Municipalities is involved in this, and I've had conversation with them a couple of times because thanks to the Charlotte mayor, Southport is now represented on their legislative review panel. And they are looking at it as well. They look at things that are going to be impact more than one jurisdiction. This certainly carries to more than one jurisdiction, but there's only 2 counties? How many counties do have the fire district?
We're the last county, because the other county, Union County, that was doing the fire fee, they have went away from it.
So what my understanding of the way the system works, the league may not have much say in this because they look at more general stuff, and local stuff, and this would be a local stuff, would fall to our representatives. But the representative, Miller, has assured me that he's interested in trying to find some kind of resolution to this. As all of us, he doesn't know what that resolution is. Part of the trick will be to bring all of those parties together to have a conversation about what's possible and what's not possible and how we do that. And so as we go into this budget cycle, it will not be resolved. And so we should plan that there's going to be, we're going to have the decision of footing the bill, additional bill for the rest of the district, which we did last year, and I'm thinking we're going to do it again. This is going to be more than a one-year discussion, but at least there's some more traction on this. And because of the Leland is $3 million, Charlotte is $1 million, Oak Island is $1 million. As the chief said, it's $9 million, just over and above what the county and the unincorporated places do not have to pay. So this is just informational. Any more questions before we let the chief go?
I just wanted to mention, and Chief, this is not about you. This is my personal soapbox. I've had an issue with the fact that we are supplementing the fire department, not because I don't want our fire department, but because the areas that are outside of our corporate limits are getting a free ride. And not a free ride. They still pay a fire fee, but the citizens of Southport are heavily, and we will probably see that continue to grow, relying on our ad valorem taxes to supplement that. The only consideration I would have for really looking at ad valorem taxes versus the fire fee is, and I like what you're saying about having a flat fee, and perhaps it's a different version of that, but the idea that our citizens are carrying the weight of this is not fair to me. I would like to see that spread across the entire fire district and not just citizens of Southport.
Yeah, and that's another advantage to having the fire fee, is that everything collected in Southport Fire District on the fire fee comes to Southport. If we go to a fire tax, I'm afraid that citizens in Southport are going to be paying for a fire department in the other end of the county, because it's going to be one tax district, is what I've been told. Right now we have 21 fire fee districts. So everything that's collected in Southport Fire District comes to us. But if we go to a tax, that will change, because I understand they're not going to have 22 fire districts with a separate tax. It's going to be a one tax on the whole county probably, and then it will be distributed to the fire departments that way.
It seems easy enough to continue the breakdown at the county level and just redistribute it that way. So that just sounds like part of the conversation that we have to have going forward to make sure that we're not paying for the other side of the county.
Yes.
But it's...
And that's what I've said also, but that's not going to solve the problem though.
Well, but technology is fantastic. If we can get somebody who can figure out how to do that code and write it in, then the bills will come out that way.
Because what's going to happen, they don't want to separate those districts because the same thing is going to happen. Southport Fire District is going to, if we had our own separate fire tax district, we would have a lot of money coming in. But a rural district would not. So they don't have the commercial businesses, they don't have the residences, so they're not going to have that much money. So that's why they're not going to want, and when I say they, I'm talking about the county is not going to want to have separate districts, because it's not going to solve the problem of distributing the money equally among the whole county. So that's another disadvantage.
Chief, and certainly feel free to correct me on this, but in truth in lending, if we do away with the fire fee, and they went, let's just say 7 cents over here, that should be, the day one should be revenue neutral, because you've done away with paying that bill over here, you're just paying it over there. However, over here can geometrically increase to something else, because if it's tied to ad valorem, it's going to increase every time the house goes up. Every time you sell a house, it's going to go up.
It's going to have to increase.
So
Yes, sir.
but on day one, it would actually be revenue neutral, because you've done away with one bill and getting another bill. It's the day two that you have to worry about.
Yes.
Okay.
What I'm hearing a little bit is, let's come up with another way to take advantage of Southport and have us pay for more, everybody else.
I'm not sure that we can actually throw that rock this time, because
I will.
we are not alone in this, and we certainly are not the highest payer yet. Leland, and I talked to one of their council members 2 days ago, that $3 million is a lot of money to produce. Now, they're much bigger population than we are. So it's a county-wide issue, and the chief brings up a good point about rural. Remember, when you look at Brunswick County, the population's in spots, and those spots are where the wealth is. So we would, if you had a tax, somehow those areas would be generating a lot of money, but the rural areas, if you made it all equal, they wouldn't be generating anything. So how do you do that?
This seems a lot like our sales tax, where it's collected, it's going out to the county, and then the county is dispersing it based on population, which means that yet again, we're going to be paying for gated communities to have fire service and other amenities. So I don't know how that works. And the idea that 7 cents will offset our current fire fee is not true for the residents of Southport if we're having to subsidize these other communities. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
If you would like, I
reiterating
can
the
bring you up
problem.
and I'll leave this to the board. If you like, I would bring you up to a little bit of some discussion on sales tax that just came up today. If you want, we can wait till next month. What's the feeling of the board? Want to hear it? So, because we're on this review of legislative proposals for the state through the League of Municipalities, the sales tax issue came up yesterday in that meeting. And they had one of their subject matter experts call me today, and we sat down and chat about it. And I've also spoken to Representative Miller about it, about how all the issues that we know. We in Southport generate a heck of a lot of money. The first thing is we can't tell you how much money we generate. None of the software packages anywhere will tell you from the state to the county how much money is generated in the city of Southport. We know how much we get back. We get a check for that. We know that. Because the best I can figure out is they use the 5-digit zip code. Who else uses our 5-digit zip code? Just about everybody in this whole area. Because of that, they don't have a GIS system that targets American fish so they know what's coming out of American fish. They just know it comes from that zip code. So one of the discussions that may have some traction, because the Finance Officers Association, unbeknownst to me until today, was also working on the same issue along with some other organizations. And the theory may be to break this into at least a 2-year process. The first process is have the legislature provide enough money to change the computer system so we know exactly how much we're producing, everybody's producing, whether it's Leland, whoever it is. And then you can have a discussion about, so you produce that much, what's a fair distribution? Because the ad valorem system, we would lose on that. Alderman Spencer has made that mention several times, that if we compared our ad valorem against the gated community nearby, we would get less money than we would get less money if we did the ad valorem tax system. So the system that they only have 2 ways of doing this: ad valorem or by population. So the county has chosen population. That's what they chose. I have no qualms about that. And so we have to figure out, let's assume, I'm just going to throw a figure. Let's assume we produced $5 million here. And then we get back $3 million or $2 million, whatever it is that we get back. We can't have a real hard discussion with the legislators about how unfair that is, because we don't know how unfair that is, because we can't figure out the first number. So we may be working for this year. Let's get the computers online. You know, as I was talking to our attorney, what was it, 1.5 years ago? It's the first time you could actually go to North Carolina and actually do things online for his line of work. We need to move 2024, 2025. Let's move forward and do that first, and then next year work on what's fair once we see what everybody's producing. This board will have to decide which way you want us to look at that, because this is not like a one-man show here. The board will give me direction when I'm talking to the league about that. And we'll probably have that conversation as soon as probably in January. I just want to give people a heads up on what's going on. Anything else for the chief? Thank you, Chief. All right, item number 3, if I can get it out of my package. The weather tower. This has languished for quite some time, and we may be coming to a conclusion. Chief, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. The Southport Weather Tower was a very iconic and historical piece of maritime fabric in our community. The weather tower fell due to a coastal storm in February of 2020. The citizens of this town began rallying and donating funds to place an exact replica of the historic Weather Bureau signal tower on the waterfront here in Southport. And we're pleased to announce tonight that the final donations to complete the project have been secured. Just to give you a brief history, dozens of these towers were built after 1898 when President McKinley ordered the Weather Bureau to implement a hurricane warning system for ships. The towers were known officially as Coastal Warning Display Towers. The city of Southport's tower was a memorial to Jessie Taylor, the woman who flew the signal flags from the tower from 1900 when it was built until she passed away in 1962. This tower will be replaced in its original location as a testament to Southport's maritime history, its resilience and survivability through many storms and strong winds of adversity. So before you this evening is a budget amendment to appropriate the funds to start the project.
Looking for a motion?
Yes, you want to do the motion?
Okay, yeah, sure. I propose a motion to approve Amendment 6 of the fiscal year 2025 budget to appropriate $73,804.37 now being held in reserve in the general fund to increase the donation account budget by $5,000 for the current year donations and to increase the capital outlay account by $78,804.37.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second? And is there any discussion on the motion?
Same location, exact same location.
Yes, I believe Heather has already had that approved through the SHPO. Yes.
And in terms of providing meteorological data, cameras, is there anything going to be on this tower? Or is it going to perform a service at all? I know I'm sacrilegious. I'm the one that grew up here asking these questions. No, I'm sorry. I mean, just, we all grew up here. But
it can. We can put some type of weather device on it like we have in a couple of spots in Southport. That's not part of this original cost. This cost is to erect a replica, that's literally just like it and, have a flagpole on it. But we can add if we want weather services.
thank you.
And I do know that y'all salvage some pieces of the original that y'all be able to work back into it, and I think that's fun for people to know.
Yeah, and the lights. Yeah,
That's what I mean, the lights.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I would, I'll take Alderman Mosseller. I offer this for your consideration on your motion to add and direct the city manager to execute the contract.
And direct the city manager to execute the contract.
Thank you, ma'am. And so I want to, well, let's vote on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Chief. The chief was, I asked the chief when I became mayor to take over the lead for helping raise the funds. He's done that. I want to thank the Lions Club for putting us over the top. They contributed a sizable sum to get us there. And I want to thank everybody that contributed over the last 4 years to that put this forward. It's been a long ordeal, but it's finally come to fruition, and it's a terrific action. So let's move on to the next topic. Item number 4 is really more is informational. In the past, getting legislative agendas up to Raleigh in time before the session starts was an issue. And so this board has committed itself to working to get these ideas before our legislators when you can sit down and chat with them. If you haven't done it, you should go up to Raleigh right in the beginning of the session and watch the commotion. Everybody and his brother's trying to get 5 minutes of everybody's time, and I don't even know how their brains work because there's so much info coming at you. So we're building one out, and so what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll go to our local legislators, because if they're not behind it, it's not going to go anywhere, and they'll tell us which ones they think will fly and which ones will not fly. I don't know that we need to read it. It's in the record if you want to go read it. But it'll change from now to January. We were told to bring it in to them in January, but have the conversations before that time. So that's item number 4. Item number 5 is has been canceled, and we got a new number 5, which is Alderman Carroll's the lead.
Thank you. Mayor and board members, I'd like to propose the following motion. In light of recent changes, I respectfully request that we initiate open and collaborative discussions with Bald Head Island Limited and East West Partners regarding their Indigo Phase 2 project. The Indigo Phase 2 project initially came before the city of Southport several years ago. Since then, recent actions by county and state officials have impacted Southport's ETJ. As a result, the majority of the project now falls under county jurisdiction, while a smaller portion remains within the city. Bald Head Island Limited and East West Partners have expressed a desire to have the entire project, both the city and county portions, annexed into Southport. I believe it is the city's best interest to negotiate directly with the developers to ensure a unified development approach rather than having it divided across separate ordinances. Working collaboratively with the developers allows us to pursue a cohesive vision for Indigo Phase 2 that aligns with Southport's long-term interest. If this community is destined to be built, we have a unique opportunity to help shape it in a way that best benefits both our current residents and those who will join our community in the years to come. This approach will enable us to craft a higher quality, well-integrated project that enhances Southport's character, serves the city's needs, and maximizes the potential opportunities that such development can bring. I urge the board to consider this motion and open the door to proactive, positive discussion with Bald Head Island Limited and East West Partners. Together, we can work toward a solution that serves the best interest of Southport now and for generations ahead.
All right, there's a motion on the floor and there's a second. Is there any discussion?
We lost our shirts when we lost the ETJ, when we're talking about Indigo Phase 2. I think that going to them to try and have those conversations is the smartest way to protect what we can for Southport. I think that we're between a rock and a hard place here, and we need to go and be ready to have those conversations. And our planning department and planning board did a fantastic job when they were working with Indigo Phase 2 before it came before the board, before I was on the board. I sat through many of those discussions, and then I saw what the potential could be when they went to the county zoning, and I applaud them for coming to us to have those conversations, because I think that this really is the best way forward. As Alderman Carroll said, if it's happening, we need to be a part of it rather than have it done to us. We need to make sure we're part of that conversation.
I have to agree with Alderman Kelly. We need to be part of the conversation. They could have just sat out there and done everything in the county, and too bad for us. Now, they're being amenable to us. Let's take advantage of it and get that thing into the city as soon as possible.
And to Alderman Kelly's point, we didn't lose our shirts. We were left naked. Okay? And the county zoning for that parcel, I believe, allows by right over 1,800 units. So.
Oh no! 2,800.
2,800. Excuse me. Yes. So this is the right thing for us to do as a board. Let's initiate these conversations. Let's start having discussions that hopefully follows through on the Mitchell's plan to annex this property into the city, and really defines, helps us to define what it's going to look like.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Alderman Spencer.
It wasn't intended, but trying to stay a small town had a reverse effect on us. We became disenfranchised because of our population and now our base for taxation. So we've talked about it with fire fees. We talked about it with sales tax. It doesn't look like we win by growing unless we have population. If we don't have the population, we're not going to get our fair share generally. I want to grow Southport as much as we can with what we have.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. I'm going to just put a little plug in. As many of you know, on November 19th, over at I think it's the Senior Center in Supply, off of Stone Chimney Road. There will be a meeting over there, East West, and Baldhead Island Inc. will be there. They'll have the charts there. I will toss out for your consideration. Look at the charts to see if generally what you think of it. Don't be fixated that this is here and that's there and this is here and that's there. Don't get so fixated on that part of the conversation. That's what the discussions will be about. Generally, things that are there will be there somewhere, but don't get fixated on exactly where everything is. Did I say that right, Robert?
Yes, and
Okay.
thank you all for considering this.
Okay. Item number 6 is the Board of Adjustment appointment process. Alderman Spencer? You have the
Yes, sir,
floor.
Mayor. Thank you. I have been put as liaison of the Board of Adjustment, and we've seen several very important cases that comes before that board. We changed the number of the board, and it happened after our June transition period where we normally do a board applications. We have 4 positions. We had 3 people apply and 1 to show up for an interview. I would ask the board that we would extend those applications until December the 15th and make a call out for people to put in their applications for Board of Adjustment if you'd like to be a part of the process. And I will make that as a form of a motion if I need to.
Yeah, you would need to do that, but to clarify, those who have already put in are still put in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I would like more to work with. I don't have enough to fill the whole position. And again, we didn't even get everyone to the interview.
And to add to that, part of that is the ETJ positions that are now city positions. So it wasn't like everybody just got up and left. We were left with.
That's right.
I mean, like,
That's
let's make
right.
sure people understand.
They were. Yes. So I would ask that we extend and open those up, the applications up until December the 15th. We're planning to interview up until that point for anyone who applies. So we're not waiting till the 15th to interview. We're just going ongoing interviewing whenever we can because it's been hard to get everybody together.
Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I appreciate Alderman Spencer's conversation, but I'm going to tell you, I'm struggling with not considering volunteer applicants that have followed the rules, showed up on time, and in favor of advertising for more applicants. Certainly, if we have vacant positions we don't fill, then we advertise again. This has happened in the past, and we have had to re-advertise for vacant positions if no one applied. But the applicants that followed the procedures should be considered. Certainly, qualifications may vary. I appreciate, because that's why you do your interviews, and that may become part of the discussion during the board's appointment process. But these citizens stepped up and volunteered to serve, and I think we must honor that by completing the process consistent with the ordinance. So it's hard for me to support deviating from what has been our typical process.
I think he was saying only 3 people applied and only 1 actually showed up for the interview.
How many seats are available?
But if they didn't just show up, or they were scheduled, or you couldn't get them scheduled?
And did not show up, but we're willing to move that, but everyone is not able to meet at the same time, and we're not being able to select from a very full pool. Basically, everybody that shows up will get a position because there are not enough people to apply.
Well,
this is my board, and I'm going to have to deal with it, so I make this request. I'm the liaison for this board, so this is my request, respectfully.
So I guess the real question is, what's the downside of this? If the people who are put in will stay put in, and we throw the net back out because there's been a lot of, I want to say, upheaval in the whole system. Things have changed multiple times since June when we passed this code. I guess it's a code. And so, I don't imagine that I'm going to vote on it, but I can still vote. It's my opinion. I don't see the downside of opening it up to December 15th and looking to see if we can get a bigger pond of people.
Is the one person that interviewed, they're going to be appointed, or?
Not making that decision yet, but highly qualified. I was excited, and we need diversity. Yes, so yes, I was excited about the one that did show up. Yes.
I mean, I understand where Alderman Spencer's coming from, and I think I can relate with Alderman Mostiller as well. I would encourage us to, if that person is in fact qualified, go ahead and appoint that person. They follow the guidelines and expectations, and let's extend this deadline to December 15th and move forward in that direction.
We considered that in a 3-person panel, but prudent heads said, let's wait and see what the consideration of the board would be before we made our next move.
You were pleased with the person that you talked to?
Absolutely. A new player, someone who's raising a family here, got a young child, annexed themselves into the city, has been through processes, knows the process, wants to participate. There are others that want to participate, and there is actually an application sitting that was late, so we have other applications in the bin that we could use. And I would ask again that anyone out there that wants to participate, I would love to sit down and talk to you, the 3 interviewers.
If the one we have meets our qualifications, let's don't keep him or her hanging. Let's go with it.
Well, I appreciate all that, but it's hard. We don't have their applications to even consider any. That's not even information we have.
I'm not going to do that tonight at all.
Yeah.
I will go back to the 3-person panel and discuss it. It was pretty much agreed that, but again, we've got other people to listen to, and we don't just want to take what is put in front of us. I don't mean that in a negative way, but we need to select more than just
with backgrounds and
Yes.
things too.
Yes.
That
just
qualifications.
Anybody that puts an application
Right.
can have a spot, and that's okay. I'm not the most qualified person myself, but somebody let me up here. So I would ask that we extend it till December the 15th.
I see this as being an ongoing issue for all of our boards and committees, and I mean, this is a very slippery slope. We have somebody who followed the expectations and guidelines, put in the application, showed up. We had 2 other people that did not.
What was it?
It was scheduling. We're not going to beat them down. We're not going to beat them down. That everyone getting at the same place at the same time. I'm looking forward to looking at the other applicants. No one has done anything wrong, but I don't like to be limited in my choices. I've seen that in a lot of ways here lately.
Any other comment?
I'll tell you another thing is trying to. There was a time where an alderman could appoint who they wanted to appoint, and if 6 people voted, they did it. We've gone to let's go through the interviews and let's make everybody happy, and it's not easy to satisfy everybody's schedule and satisfy everybody's wants and needs. So,
Alderman Spencer, did I hear you correctly in that you're representing that all three people who did the interview are of the same mindset that you have just presented today?
with one, yes, with the extension, absolutely. All three concluded we needed to be able to look at more folks. This is not just my idea.
Okay.
Just for clarification, if I may, we have 4 openings. We had 3 on-time applications, 1 late. Yes. Okay, 1 late, and 1 person that interviewed. But y'all are still actively trying to reach out to the other 3 to schedule those.
Whenever it's possible, and we'll do it on their time, not ours.
Yep.
All right. There's a motion on the floor. This is a second. All in favor of that motion, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the city clerk for some clarification here. This number 7 is the Cottage Lane thing, correct? Okay. So I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda.
You've already done that. You just need to call up staff for a presentation, and they'll guide you.
Who's doing that? Why was that such a hard thing for me to figure out?
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. This evening, we are here to give you an update on the 2 properties that were updated, or you were given an update about for the minimum housing ordinance last meeting on October 10th. So that was 711 Cottage Lane and 314 North Rhett Street. So the required findings of fact that outline what and how long a property has to come into compliance were written and noticed to the property owners on October 11th with a 30-day compliance deadline. That deadline was then November 11th, so that was just 3 days ago. So as part of the request for this update, we are just moving forward with the next steps for enforcement. We have the ordinances ready. That was just part of our due diligence. So we are before you now to ask that you approve those ordinances for both, with one exception, or one little change. For the 314 North Rhett Street, we'd like a 15-day grace period. They have applied for a demolition permit, and they want to have time to try to move forward with that.
Is there any questions for Mo?
And also, Derek Mabe is here, our code enforcement officer, if you have any questions for him.
I'll make the motion, and then we can have discussion. Would that work? I make a motion to approve the demolition ordinances for 711 Cottage Lane and 314 North Rhett Street as presented, with a 15-day grace period added to 314 North Rhett Street.
Is there a second to that motion? There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
So it sounds like we've heard from the owners of 314 North Rhett. Have we heard from the owners from 711 Cottage Lane?
No, 711 Cottage Lane, I've never heard anything back from them. They've had multiple notices. They've never reached back out, never been able to get in contact with those property owners.
Remind me again how those notices are delivered.
The original is a notice of violation, gets mailed regular postage. Second notice is a notice of hearing, which is actually posted to the property, regular postage, and certified mail. Finding of facts, the third one and final one is actually sent the same way as well. And then we present the ordinance here today for you to vote on, and we move forward.
And so we don't have anyone who actually goes to the mailing address to attempt to have a conversation with these people, correct?
There's no one in that. It's an abandoned structure.
No, I mean the mailing address where we have sent the notices.
Yeah, it's out of state.
Okay. And was there an attempt for a phone call or to reach out to these folks any other way?
Yeah, I've looked for any phone communication, any numbers that we've had with the city, and we have not had any communication.
Have we looked for phone numbers through other means other than what was with the city originally?
I have had my owner of the company actually try to do a trace on the location. The last number that we had come up with no service.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Marsteller?
Right. Oh, sorry.
I
was asleep at the wheel.
Oh, Alderman Karen?
Do we know if these people are paying their taxes? Like, are their taxes current?
Well, I have not been to the tax department to check on that, but I have just a gut feeling on 7-Eleven, probably not. It's been abandoned for years, and it was so. 314, they are taking care of this property. They've already got a demolition crew ready to go. That's why we asked for that 15-day grace period for that one. So hopefully that within the next 15 days, it should be on the ground and cleared up.
I have a hard time tearing somebody's property down, even if, as Alderman Carroll said, we don't know if they're paying their taxes. Perhaps the county has a way to contact them that we don't. If their taxes are up to date, then I have been guilty of missing notices. I have been guilty of not opening my mail, and 30 days for me is not always enough time for me to see things, even when they are urgent.
Well, the original notice went out to them in January of 2024, so they've had all year to, check that mail. I'm sorry. But
okay, no, I'm trying to make sure we're covering all the bases, because I don't want to have to deal with somebody coming up and upset with us because they didn't see a notice.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any other? There's a motion on the floor, there's a second. All in favor say aye and raise your hand. All opposed? So it's 3-2. Guys have it. Okay. Just as a FYI, the league actually was talking about asking for changes in that code section to make it easier for jurisdictions to figure out how to go through this process. Just give you that heads up. Okay. I'm sorry? It's only 7:12. Shh. Okay, we have the committee reports. The ABC thing, Frank, do you have anything?
Yes, the ABC board met yesterday. It's a little bit different what I thought it would be. We had the road closures and whatnot. The overall sales were down by $32,000, and I thought it had gone up because of that. But the strange thing there is that the mixed beverage, things in restaurants, that went up. What went down was the number of traffic, people going in and out. I thought with all the roads backed up, with people grabbing a bottle to go home, but that's not what happened. But, yeah. So they stayed and had, and ate somewhere. But all in all, the total volume was down 2.68%. But with all that was going on with the roads and whatnot, not too bad.
That's excellent. Some of the businesses suffered 40 and 50% declines. Planning board. Alderman Kelly, do you have anything?
We are currently conducting interviews for the planning board. We have 4 positions open. 3 were vacated because of the ETJ, and 1 was a resignation. We've done 1 day of interviews. We have another day next week scheduled for interviews as well, and we hope to have the appointees for our December meeting.
Robert, you're on the
Yeah, I don't have an update.
Okay. And Parks and Rec, that would be Lowe, and she's not here. Heather, you've got anything that you want to communicate to us? Do we have a timeline when we might get the recommendation from the board on the Franklin Square?
It is scheduled for our agenda for Tuesday night, November the 19th. So it could come, but we'll probably have to have another special called meeting to vote on it.
My only concern, the only reason I asked the question is we're getting closer to the budget cycle.
Yes.
And so it'd be nice to be able to hear that recommendation and for the board to decide what they want to
Right.
do. Okay.
I 100% agree with you.
Okay.
100%.
Thank you, ma'am. Managers report.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, North House Street Overlay District update. There's a meeting on November 19th with the county, Mr. McLeod, and our planning staff. Shortly after that meeting, staff will send you a report on hopefully the success of that meeting with the county. The draft language, I remind you, proposes standards for the county property, formerly the ETJ, that's located on North House Street, that are consistent with those found in the city's UDO. So we're trying to, through the overlay, obtain consistency with our UDO standards in the new ETJ county zoning. Correct? Okay. So we plan to report progress as a result of that meeting right after that, next week. Next up, comprehensive plan update with the Stewart Consultants. Part 1 will be sent to you tomorrow. This will include a draft of the intro and input sections and the draft recommendations tomorrow, right? Okay. Part 2 will be the existing conditions on the CAMA related aspects and the supporting information. You can go on our website right now and see the work to date, but you should have the first phase tomorrow, okay? Then after that, we'll start setting up meetings with the board, and that includes individual meetings as well, correct? Yes. So that's moving along. All right, thank you. Old Courthouse, City Hall. With the abatement work concluding in December, our engineer who's here tonight is developing a project schedule on the next phases as we move this project forward, including the immediate need for the HVAC and the next round of construction work. But that project's moving along as planned for the abatement work to complete in December. Next, strategic needs and goals overview. I think it's important with all the things we're talking about that we stop and pause. Don't let the train move too fast, but stop and take a cohesive, high-level view of all these projects, needs, and goals, so that we're looking both at the immediate thing and don't get too caught up in the day-to-day, but look at the long-term strategic goals in a very logical, methodical, organized process. I'm working with staff on that. We'll talk about that at department head meeting tomorrow. And then I certainly will ask for y'all's input that I've captured things from what I've heard and researched. We can then link those with the long-term cash flow forecast that we're doing this year for the budget. We're going to take a long-term look, not just this year, but look 5 to 10 years down the road, as would any corporation looks long-term, not in the immediate. This is a business. I'm running the business, and we've got to take taxpayer money and use it prudently and plan for the future and try to hold down taxes. The T word came up with Chief Drew, but we want to hold those taxes down, and the best we can is take a long-term view. Okay? We'll talk more about that at the January retreat. So this will be a setup for the next discussion, so you'll have a basis upon which to talk. Okay? All right. FY 25-26 budget is underway. We kicked that off in October. Again, we are taking a long-term view on our operating capital costs, trying to think down the road So it's a strategic budget and not just an annual budget, because the flow of revenues and expenses is a long-term forecast that impacts today, but down the road, and how things are phased in rather than on an individual and year-to-year basis. The Regional Inclusive Park, interestingly, with the two bridges out, the October 16th meeting was postponed because the managers didn't want to get caught up in the ferry backup. But we've solved that problem, and so that's on schedule for next Wednesday. So I'll report back on the Regional Inclusive Park options. Let's see, finally, I was looking at the packet tonight before I came in. If you look at the very last page, I found an interesting data point on permits inspections in your packet. Excuse me. The building permits in October was the highest month since January at 47. So building is still proceeding at a rapid pace. The number of inspections at 429 was the third highest since January. So there is still plenty of growth going on here, even with the loss of the ETJ. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I jump in for just a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Mo, do you happen to have the address for the owners of the 7-Eleven 7-Eleven Cottage Lane where it was sent? Because according to the county tax records, it's an in-state address.
Yes, what I have is Rockingham, North Carolina.
Okay, and
Yes.
that's what the county tax records show.
Correct.
Not an out-of-state address, and it also shows that those taxes have been paid this year.
Well, my code enforcement officer, I wasn't aware, those were sent, I don't know where they were sent.
No,
I'm
and I didn't
assuming
think that
yeah.
came from you. I just was curious if we were actually getting to the correct address, because he just said that it was out of state, and in fact, it is an
I will
in-state address.
absolutely double check that it went to this address for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Before we start any demolition, please.
Is that it, ma'am?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. The staff reports are in your package for Public Works, Police, Finance, and Permitting. The mayor's comments, I've said a number of my comments already about we're working on the sales tax with a bigger arena than just Southport talking to ourselves. The fire fee is the same thing. We're trying to reach out to and get a bigger collaborative effort so we have more leverage when we go to Raleigh and talk about this, as opposed to just the number of people who vote in Southport. Because there is not, I will tell you now, there is not much appetite for any new taxes, whether it's a meal tax or anything else. And so we're stuck with the state rules, which is we get money from the ABC store. We have a couple of other minor contributions that come in, or revenue streams that come in, and the biggest one that we have, and for the whole state, is our ad valorem tax. So if we need something, it almost has to come out of the ad valorem tax, which means as you grow, you may have to increase that. And every time that happens, there's pushback, rightfully so, to make sure that we're watching every dime that comes through. But I want to let you know that we are really working on trying to change, not just one person, we are trying to change how the sales tax is done, because if we can actually get that changed so it's a much fairer distribution, we take all the abuse, all the cars and everything else that the impacts to the infrastructure, and somebody who doesn't have any of that gets more money than we do. So how do we make that more fair? And not just for Southport, whether it's Charlotte or Leland or whoever it is. And then the same thing is throughout the state. So when we're talking to the league and you're on the Zoom calls and you got 100 people on it, they all have the same issue. So I just wanted to say that. Board comments, which would be, I'll start with you, Alderman Mosteller.
Thank you. I want to start out with a shout out to Kylie Barefoot, our senior building inspector. I have had the opportunity to work with him on a project in my home and want to thank him and the permitting staff for all of their help. In addition to my appreciation for Mr. Barefoot's service, I want to acknowledge that he has earned a Level 3 building inspection certification. This is the highest level of certification and qualifies him to inspect all types of construction of unlimited size. This is a big deal, and our community is better for Mr. Barefoot's commitment to excellence. So I just want to shout that out. The other one is, of course, the new kayak launch. What an excellent community asset. It took us 5 years to get here. This project is successful because of 3 people. First, Heather Hemphill was able to secure a CAMA water access grant. Eric King, the general manager for Southport's Morningstar Marina. Mr. King recognized that the original plan could be improved and offered to work with the city to create a better outcome. Among many contributions on behalf of Morningstar Marinas, Eric relocated the city's easements to allow the entire project to be located in a better spot for more accessibility and better accessibility and more accessibility to parking. And finally, McPherson Marine, their attention to detail and quality built our city a fabulous kayak launch. Heather Hemphill, Eric King, and Jesse McPherson, and their commitment to this project made it awesome. This Tuesday evening, as a citizen, I attended the County Planning Board meeting. Alderman Kelly was also there, and they approved 4 subdivisions and a rezoning and denied moving forward with recommendations for text amendments that would have required more trees and open space for new development. As citizens, of course, they kicked it back. I don't want to mislead. They kicked it back to continuing to try to work on it in their UDO update process. As citizens of Brunswick County, though, these are important conversations and will affect our water quality and our environment. Since we have parcels within and adjacent to our city limits that are governed by county zoning, I would like to ask that the city manager speak with our planning director and to determine if it would be helpful for our planning staff to attend the county planning board meetings, just so we're abreast of what's going on, because it is going to be directly impacting us going forward in a way that it never did before. So just for your consideration, city manager. And then finally, the beautification committee cleanup this past Saturday focused on Christmas. It's not Thanksgiving yet, but it focused on Christmas. And the beautification volunteers worked on the sailboat wreaths, checking the lights, getting them ready to be hung, and they worked on the big Christmas tree, getting it ready for the waterfront tree lighting ceremony on December 6th at 6 o'clock. So be sure, I hope everyone adds to their calendar, December 6th at 6 o'clock. Down at the waterfront. It's a great way to get in the Christmas spirit.
Alderman Carroll.
I'd just like to say that the motion I made earlier as it relates to Indigo Phase 2 is not a pro-development stance by any means. It is a pro-Southport stance. And so I, again, appreciate this board for the consideration and moving that forward.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Spencer.
I'm going to try to be short, but tonight I heard something that was exciting, and I, as one person who has grown up in Southport, when I was a young person, if you would have told me one day you're going to have music and dancing and lots of restaurants and Southport's going to have a lot of activity one day, I would have been like, I can't wait. I can't wait. This is going to be great. But I left and went away because I didn't like Southport. And when I came back, I started to see the realities of life here. The things that we've talked about with our tax structure and the way our business model is set up, it's starting to become evident to me that I can't support tourism and bringing more business in if it doesn't benefit us. So every decision I've been making lately has been because of the reality that the more we do, the less we get. And the more we get trampled on our infrastructure and things like that. So if you want to change Southport's destiny, it has to be done at the legislative level, or having all this activity and all this business is not productive. It doesn't have a positive outcome. It has a negative result. So that's the most exciting thing, that if we could change the rules at the legislative level, Southport would have a chance. But at this moment, we're losing this game. And that was the most exciting thing I've heard for a while, that it might be able to change.
Alderman Lay.
I'd like to echo what Alderman Mosteller said concerning the kayak launch. That is a quality piece of work there. That's a credit to the city of Southport, Heather, and the people that worked on it. Somebody needs to give them a big round of applause. They did one heck of a job. It is a nice. This is going to cost me because my wife's going to want to buy another kayak.
Okay. I will now entertain a motion to go into closed session to consult with attorney employed and retained under 143-318-11 and to consider qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment.
So move.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. We are in closed session. Thank you, everybody. I will entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We're out of here.